Okay, the objective of this exercise is to remove these hotspots within the face area here. Again, we want to do it in a non-destructive way. Again, we're going to do it as a complete sequence. I don't want this retouch to rely on how good I am with a brush. I want it to be a mechanical way which I can apply to every image, because I do apply this to every image whenever it needs it. I don't want there to be too many variables, so when I teach this to people it's very, very simple and it's repeatable. So, how do we do this? First thing we're going to do is I'm just going to select the background layer. I'm going to go up to Filter and I'm going to say Pattern Maker. The reason for going to Pattern Maker is because we're going to make a swatch where we can fill a whole layer with a flesh tone. I don't want to try and get rid of these hotspots by simply kind of introducing a flat computer generated tint or cloning or something like that. That is just way too much work and it's completely subjective. This, I just want a very, like I said, a mechanical way of doing it where I just go bang, 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 brush, brush, and it's done, and it's not open for interpretation really. So this is very simple. All we're going to do is hold down the Apple and the space bar, or the control and the space bar if you have a PC, and then I'm going to make a selection just around this area here. I found usually on any model or any flesh tone based picture that this area here is the kind of best area for the flesh tone. And then I just simply say, just generate me a tile. And what that's done is it's just now taken that portion and created a flat, small square which can be step and repeated across that layer, and that will not create a horrible join. Now you can see in here there's a few join areas. The great thing about this is that if there's any imperfections, it really doesn't matter, and it can be actually appallingly bad and you'll still get away with it. Not because it will look good when we fill the layer, but because of the final mask, when it applies it, it will hide all those imperfections. So that's it, that's all we have to do. To actually save that as a pattern, I just click now on this tiny little floppy disk icon. Very bizarre that it's a floppy disk, but there you go. And I go into here and I just say flesh. I've now used the tool to create the pattern. I don't want to say OK at this point because that will just fill my image. I say cancel. Now what I do is I go to the top group, which is obviously the project we did before, which was the lines. I now just go into here and I make a new layer. I'm going to call that layer flesh. And while that is highlighted, I go to the wing menu again as before and just say build a new group from the layer. And this group is going to be called hot spot. That will automatically now put the selected layer inside the group. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just go to the flesh layer, say edit, say fill. And all we're going to do is in the fill menu is we say choose a pattern, and then you go to your custom pattern and then you choose the flesh pattern that I just saved, and we say OK, and you can now see that I have a whole layer saved with a flesh tone. So that's the easy bit. Well, the next bit's just as easy. It might just not be as easy to understand in the beginning. What we're going to do is not brush this into place, because that would rely heavily on my brush work. I don't want this to be the case. I want my brush work to be just slapdash. We turn off the hotspot. Our objective now is to create a mask. I always make my masks, always with calculations if they do need to be, so I'm just going to show you background, red, green and blue. I just go through them and I'm looking for the channel which has the greatest contrast between the area where I want my flesh tone and the area where I don't want the flesh tone, and that would obviously be the blue in this case. As it stands, it doesn't have quite enough contrast for what I need, so we will just go up to image, calculations, and all I'm going to do here is I'm going to do two calculations in this sense. All we're going to do is, first of all, I'm going to multiply it. That has just kind of raised everything, but in proportion, so the shadow areas have got much, much darker, kind of leaving the highlights behind, which is what I want. Because this is going to be an intermediate situation, we're just going to say build a new channel. And now you can see that that calculated result has created alpha channel number 1. So I can go to the blue channel and then just show you what was created. Blue multiplied by blue creates that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have alpha 1 selected, go back to calculations, and now this time choose overlay. And watch what happens on the screen. I'm adding contrast to it now. Now what it's done is it's opened up the highlight areas, also making the dark areas darker as well, and now I have a perfect mask for me to apply that to the flesh tone layer. Because I'm going to use it exactly as it is, all I have to do is just say selection. Build a selection from this and say OK. Now I go to the layer that I want to apply that to, so I turn on my hotspot and I go to my flesh layer. Okay. All I have to do now is say add layer mask. Use the current selection on screen, and you can hardly see anything, there's just two tiny little dots here which are showing through as a selection. So simply click on there. Okay. So that's it. All I have to do now is select where I'd like that to be. Before we do that, I'm just going to show you where these areas are. So if we go to the hotspot folder, we can just turn that off and turn it on. And then if I zoom this up so you can see what's going on here, all it's doing is just making a really nice reduction in the brightness of this hotspot. It's also happening in here, it's happening in the eyes a little bit, it's happening anywhere in the mask where it's not black. So this is the next part of my kind of mechanism in the way that in which I do nearly everything in Photoshop. We have one alpha channel on this layer for the flesh tone, which creates really good quality integration. I need another alpha channel where I can choose where I would like that to be. The only way I can do that is by having this situation where I have a layer inside a group. I then go to the group, I hold down the Alt key because I want a black mask, and then I click on Add Layer Mask. And hopefully now what you can see is that we've got flesh tone being masked by the alpha channel. That's inside a group which has got another alpha channel on it. So that simply enables me now to go to my brush tool, open up the brush a little bit. Let's make it say 40%. I'm just hitting 4 on the keyboard. That is now, as you can see, changed 40 at the top. And now as I brush through here, I'm just now brushing and integrating the retouch into here. So I don't have to be accurate. I can brush as much as I like over here. Nothing will happen because the mask underneath is black. Go down the nose here, and as I brush down the nose, it just adds a flesh tone to that hot spot. I'm also going to do it down the cheek area here, and it will take away some of the reflective nature of what's going on in here. And there we have it. And that was very easy, wasn't it? Very simple way of doing it. High quality mask on the flesh, then I just draw where I would like that to be. Close it down, and that is using Pattern Maker to get rid of hotspots on a flesh tone.